Hello and welcome to the Blackout Podcast, where I get to talk to amazing people who do amazing things. And today I have my friend, filmmaker, filmmaker Henry Colin. Thanks for coming to the podcast today.
Oh, thank you.
So years ago, we're in the same program, Film 5 at AFCOOP. You made Passage, I made Round the Lovers, and then you went on a whole different path. So let's rewind back. How was your Film 5 experience making Passage?
Making Passage was actually a really incredible experience. I think came at a good time for me. I was just after a period of a lot of no budget, self-funded little shorts, and I wanted to do a real short, quote unquote. And Film 5 is something that I'd been chasing, before. I entered a few times. Didn't get it as it goes, but Passage I think was sort of this finally I've got an idea that works. I finally understood the lesson. Write what you know. I thought, well, let's just go all the way and write about my childhood and and just get really personal. And then the experience of actually getting to follow through and make that was so genuinely pleasurable. I felt like I got to level up as a filmmaker and actually learn beyond just what my idea of making a movie is and how to actually approach it and make a film.
And your film Passage was in black and white. That was deliberate. Why?
Yeah, that one. I mean, two reasons. The more kind of artsy answer of the whole thing is it's the whole film is so memory and nostalgia based, and I do find that black and white does convey that. On top of that, Eastern Passage is a very gray, foggy place. Felt like that was the way at the time. That's how I wanted to sort of represent the community a little bit.
One of the shots that actually stood out for me in the film was the rain one, and that wasn't planned, right? If I remember, yeah.
The rain shot is funny. I think we all know that's kind of the best shot that we have in that movie, and it happened completely by accident. It was our very first shot of the whole production. Just here's our lead character. They're going to walk down a path, turn and look at the camera. Should be simple. And of course, very first shot of the day, first shot of the weekend, the whole thing. The skies open up and it is just a torrential downpour.
Wow.
More rain than I have ever seen. And it completely washed us out. We got the one shot. And the rain was beautiful.
It was.
It was so gorgeous to get the rain in that shot. But then we had, it was kind of a catastrophe. We had to flip our days. We had this whole day planned to be our exteriors, and then suddenly we had to go and shoot our interiors. Had to call our department, because of course this is Film 5, so you don't have, prep time to go in and set up your sets and anything like that, at least not in a reasonable way, because, no one's really getting paid. And I had to call my art director and say, hey, you had one, you were going to have a full day to set up this house, and now I need it in 3 hours. And she said, yep, okay. And we went and,
Who was the art director?
It was Chloe Chater.
Oh, Chloe's awesome.
Yeah, also from the Film 5.
Right.
But yeah, and, she and her team absolutely killed it, and we got our day, and we still wrapped on time, and it ended up being very, very good despite the situation that set us in there, but it was also the only time on that whole production where I finally I kind of lost it, got into my script supervisor's car. It was a friend of mine from college, so I didn't feel weird about letting myself pop off, but that was the one I was like, that's it, months of work ruined, it's over, I can't believe the rain ruined our film.
Right.
But we got the money shot, and the rest of the shoot went tremendously well.
Yeah.
And just that crew was absolutely fantastic, and I still work with a lot of them now. The cast, who are all primarily children at the time, now they're teenagers, adults, and it's kind of weird for me to see these folks grow up.
Right.
But they were all incredible, and I think a lot of people will tell filmmakers don't work with children. I disagree. Kids are great to work with. Kind because they're just like balls of creativity.
But also,
You know?
I think what helps you is, I remember you did this program, like a film camp with the kids. So that
Yeah.
you have that experience.
It's true. I did teach I worked at Ross Creek Center for Arts doing their film camp for a number of years, which was just a tremendous experience.
How was
for
that
me.
one experience?
Pardon me?
How was the Ross Creek experience?
That whole experience was like amazing. I'd never gotten to teach before, but I like teaching. You know, I like getting to share what I do because I really care about this shit. This is my thing. So I like getting to share that, especially with kids. Because when I was a teenager, like I was 14 when I first started making movies. So it's near and dear to me. So I like getting to share that. I haven't done it in a couple of years. But for the years that I was doing it, which was almost like 8 or 9,
Wow.
quite a few. I met tons and tons of just very creative kids.
How
of
long
varying
would
age.
would the camp be, and what would a typical camp include?
So 5 days, and it's sort of a start to finish kind of crash course of just making a little short with the group. So you spend your first day like, let's come up with an idea, you know, see what it's going to be. Could be anything. Probably a horror movie, but you know, could be anything. So you spend your first day coming up with the ideas, brainstorming, coming up with some storyboards. Largely, it's just an icebreaker to get everybody working together. The point of the camp is for me, it's less about making a good movie or something that's like watchable. Like, that's cool. We're going to do that anyway. Like, we're going to spend the whole week going out, shooting the movie, learning how to use some of the gear, different shot types, all that stuff. And it's great. It's a valuable lesson. But I think the key lesson that I tried to teach anyway with those camps was like teamwork.
Right.
You know, obviously when you're making a film, you know, it's not a one person job. It's a whole team of people, and I wanted to impart that right away because it's very easy, and I'm guilty of this when I was younger, to just kind of get lost in it all and think,
I'm gonna do it myself.
I can do everything, and this is the way it's going to get done. It's not true.
Talking of teams, you know, you've worked with the same DP from Passage in all your films now. What is that? Why that? And what's the chemistry that you two share?
So Keith Mitchell, my DP and longtime friend, we went to school together. So we've known each other for a long time now. He came on board with Passage. He was really down and eager to get a Film 5 under his belt at that time. And I think a lot of our working relationship and chemistry comes down to we're just big nerds about movies. You know, every time we hang out, it's just, let's talk about movies that we like. And this can get pretty obscure. You know, this can range from me, you know, saying, hey, I saw, you know, XYZ movie at the theater, you should check that out. Or he'll recommend, you know, a 5-hour Japanese, you know, movie to me, and then I'll try to check that out. And it's a lot of back and forth like that.
Yeah.
Sort of, I don't know if you would agree with this, but it almost feels like we're one-upping each other.
Did you see this?
with our movie suggestions.
Right.
But the result of that is we spend a lot of time kind of theorizing about why these movies are good, and that kind of directly leads into the work that we do together with the films, because we think, well, this is what we think a good movie is, so let's do that. Plus, Keith just he's a wizard, you know, with the camera. He can do things that I think are just like almost unnatural. It's amazing what he can do visually, and he really understands like the visions that I'll go for, but he's not afraid to stop me and say that's not going to work. Or, often I hear, I think there's a better way that we can do this, and I'm like, there probably is.
Right.
You know? And I love that. You know, I like to be challenged, because I don't think that I might be the director on the film, whatever, but I don't have the best ideas there. Somebody else on that set has a better idea than me somewhere, and I want to hear it, because it's going to make the movie better. You know, regardless of like how I might feel about like, oh, it's not 100% like my ideas, whatever. That's, you know, that's just ego. There's no room for that.
I agree. But let's talk about your process though. How does it start for you from this idea just enters your brain and you get the final file that you send to festivals? What's that process like?
It depends from movie to movie. One example, a short film I made came out in 2021, was Endless Row of Trees.
The one with what the guy was. How was that car shot? I gotta ask. There was a shot in the car with. I might think. Yes, the right film. Taylor Olson was in the car and he was just driving. I really love that shot. That was one of my best shots in the film.
I really like all we did there. That was, again, I think like Keith and our technician Stuart Rankin both kind of went in and put together just a ton of different variations on car rigs to get that going. That film, I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. We shot it on a road that we didn't have a permit for. And
what's on the day though? Because it was a day. Like,
oh yeah, we drove around. Myself and Keith, we ended up finding a road that was pretty chill, and we found a stretch of about 4 minutes of driving that we figured this is a great stretch.
Right.
We'll chill out here. We'll do it. We strapped that camera to the front of that car, so it's a lot of the time it's on the hood of the car, shooting right in on Taylor. Pretty much any shot that's just a close up of his face while he's driving. Camera's on the hood. He's driving. We're in front of him in the car, so he's following us. We're driving way slower than it looks, because you don't need to go fast in a car to make it look like you're driving fast. Just visually, it's kind of just a weird trick that works out. So he'd follow us. I'd be sitting in the back seat of the car with Keith with a monitor set up where we can watch Taylor. Of course, we can't hear him because the movie cost $100. So we're like, let's just
make it happen.
Vibe it out and check it out. But that whole production was honestly some of the most fun I've ever had making a movie. It was just a small group of us friends out there. It was like myself, Keith Mitchell, Josh Owen, Stuart Rankin, and Taylor Olson, and that was it. That was the group of us. We're just out there for a weekend shooting this movie. And it was less like, very much not like work and more like just hanging out. And I think as a result, we were all kind of just firing on all cylinders. And I think the movie turned out really well. And then it played in one film festival and went off into the ether. But,
I love that film. I really, really remember that shot. I love that shot. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, that's how that film happened. And then the pandemic happened. And you're like, I'm gonna make this film. I'm not a hero, sorry. I'm not a hero. How did that happen?
That one, so Trees, Endless Row of Trees, we wrapped about a week before the first lockdown.
Oh my God, that first lockdown was really scary.
It was terrifying. And we, I was working at a grocery store at the time. That's where that $100 went, was into food from the discount rack at that grocery store. So we ate well. But we wrapped about a week before the first lockdown. And I remember us standing on set and we were like, wonder if this is going to be something that we need to worry about. And of course, a week later, we're completely shut down. I have no idea what's going on, and of course, I'm working at a grocery store, and grocery store early pandemic. And I would say, like, before pandemic and now, not a good job. Like, it's not a great place to be working, especially if you're like a young creative. You want to be off doing different things, but then you're harbored down by this minimum wage job that you have to give all of your time and energy to. Not fantastic. Now, add that in with the pandemic and suddenly being told you're on the front lines, that you're essential. You're still not getting paid enough.
Right.
But now you're one of the people who, instead of getting to stay at home and kind of wait it out, you have to go out there and you have to be facing the public and you have to do it with a smile. And that drove me completely nuts. I definitely just went off the deep end, like really flipped out, was coming home from work every day and just like spend the first hour to 2 hours just complaining about my day. People did this, my boss did that. Horrible, horrible situation, which culminated in when I don't want to say anything that'll get anyone in trouble, but I was working at a store that might be owned by a wealthy maritime family, and they had a hero pay system in.
What is
hero pay? Was basically a top up that grocery store workers were getting during the first few months of the pandemic that sort of worked out to like extra $50-$60 per paycheck.
Okay. Wait, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, not a lot of money.
Yeah, I was.
It was one of those things where you'd get an extra, like, I forget what it was now, like $2 an hour.
Right.
After 20 hours of work. So you had to like put in 20 hours of work
to even
qualify for the
pay. Okay.
But it was, and like not a lot of us were really working. Like you were working full time, but full time meant like 30 hours. Like you weren't able to put in a full shift because we weren't busy. You just had to be there. And eventually, towards the middle of the year, and this is still 2020, they told us the danger was over and they cut the pay. Me, in my infinite wisdom, I went on to Facebook and...
Oh, right! I remember that post!
I'm sure you remember this.
Yes.
So I complained about it, and I was fired,
Right.
from the job, which I felt was like a great injustice, because I was complaining about our pay being cut, and we're supposedly essential, but only if we keep our mouths shut. So that was kind of like the seeds for I Am Not a Hero were sort of planted there. Little later, I had met with the folks at Winterlight Productions, and just to see if there's any work, what could I do? And I also knew that they were producing the Cinema 902 series, which is a lot of micro-budget feature films. And
I was literally about to ask, but
Yeah, so it's like, their first season, like the films were like $25,000, like very, very small, but it seemed like a means to be able to get something off the ground. I was hungry for that. I had applied for Talent to Watch, got told I wasn't ready, wasn't getting money. I thought, when do I get to be ready? When does this get to happen? So I just started chasing down pretty much any means. Got to talking to these guys. They asked me what I was working on. This is another thing I probably shouldn't say. I wasn't really, I didn't really have anything kind of on the go. But they asked me what I was working on, and I said, I've got something. And then immediately, went home and started writing a script, and I needed something, and I thought, well, I'm watching lots of social realism movies right now. Why not just write about the experience of working in a store early pandemic? Felt very it's in my head. I know there's drama there. I know there's a movie there, but also no one's talking about this. It's so easy to have that conversation just swept under the rug. And if, I can get even 5 more people talking about how frankly shitty it is to be a grocery store worker and work for these people, then yeah, I got to do it. And the first screenplay version of I Am Not a Hero was born. And that kind of just rested for a long time. I got a couple drafts in. They thought it was great. And then didn't hear anything for most of the year. So this would have been 2021. I finished up. I was on CERB at this point. I'd finished that up. I was going back to work. I was cleaning at a hotel. So I was sweeping up cigarette butts in the parking garage of a hotel downtown Halifax, which admittedly, not the worst job in the world.
Wait, that's actually better than the other one?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They just left me alone, so I could kind of just go about and be in my own space and just sweep up the cigarette butts, do whatever. And I didn't have to deal with customers. So I'd say that was probably the biggest plus for that. I'm on my way to work one day, and I just get an email from one of the producers saying, "Hey, you still working on that script? We'd love to produce it. Let's get this thing going. You're shooting in February."
What the fuck?
And this was November.
Right.
So I was like, I guess I'm making a movie.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where the setup for a production like that. It's and I don't want to overly romanticize micro budget filmmaking because it's fucking hard. It's really, really hard, and I didn't quite grasp that going into that production because I've spent my I'm a big movie nerd. I watch all these folks who've come up by starting with their self-funded or micro budget films, and I love the mumblecore movies. I figure I can do that. Yeah. That's a way to get things done. And yes, it is a way to get things done, but at no point should you kid yourself into thinking that this is the way it should be done.
Oh, right. Right. It could be done this way, but shouldn't.
But it's just because you can doesn't mean you necessarily should. Now, I'm very much of the opinion that if it's the choice between doing a micro budget, in our case with I Am Not a Hero, we had $37,000, which is, as we all know, as people who've made short films, that's the cash budget. If you factor in all of the in-kind budget on those film fives, that's enough to make a short film. And now we're stretching that out to make it into a feature.
How many days did you shoot?
That one was 13 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's fast.
It was...
how are your days, though? I'm curious.
Like, how do you mean? Just like, were they
Yeah,
long?
yeah,
Were
yeah,
they?
yeah.
No, we one thing we try to do, because no one's getting paid enough on these. You know, you're making some money, but it's like it's basically an honorarium,
Mm,
and you can rest assured no one there is being paid what they're worth.
mm.
So we try not to go over 10 hours.
Oh, okay.
Keep it chill,
Right.
and because yeah, like you can do overtime, I guess, but like if people aren't getting paid for it, then why are we here? You know, just because I'm here, chasing my vision doesn't mean I've got to,
Drag everyone.
exploit my friends any further than I already have by
Drag
getting them
everyone
to come out
into.
on this cheap movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was done and played a couple of festivals too.
Couple of festivals.
How do you feel, once you had that locked version?
Oh man, relief. Because the whole film, and this was kind of the weird fast pacedness of it all. We needed by the end of March to have a final cut delivered.
Oh my god.
So, and if you remember, we shot in
February. Yeah.
So March was this pit of despair.
God damn.
Where I just had to jump in and edit this whole movie
Holy my
myself.
Gosh. Yeah, that's another thing you
no
do.
Money, no money for the post.
Right.
Just like had to go in and do it. I had to learn how to mix sound.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't very good at it, and the movie doesn't sound super great, but it was passable, and it was like, well, this is the nature of this type of filmmaking.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just go all in and do it. But once I locked off on that movie and like it was done, delivered, just an incredible amount of relief. Followed immediately by, which I think is funny, the day I delivered that movie was the day I got COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. After all this, make this whole movie about COVID.
Talk about timing.
Really hardcore, and it came about too because I shared a joint with the lead actor who still worked at the grocery store that I used to work on. And it was the wave of COVID that ran through the grocery store.
Right.
So,
oh my
even
God.
though I had been a year and a half out from actually having worked there, it still got me after all that time.
They found you somehow. And now, Lost in Time.
Lost in Time.
Yeah. What's the story there?
Lost in Time came about, same producers, Paul Kimball and Ron Foley McDonald, approached me basically saying, hey, we loved I'm Not a Hero. We'd like to do another one. We think it would be really good for you to, make another film. We've got a little bit more money this time. Not a lot more money, but like a little bit more. And we think you should do something science fiction or genre-based. And I was like, well, yeah, I love genre and science fiction. I do want to try this. And Paul had a play called Doing Time that he was interested in expanding into a feature film. I thought the play seemed interesting, and just from a pure challenge perspective, I thought, man, what a great opportunity to just, I don't have to like mine my own personal traumas for once to write a story. Right. I have somebody else's work. It's in a genre that I enjoy. I can have some fun for once. Not that the other films aren't fun for me, but like when you're doing personal work, it can get kind of stressful in a more uncomfortable way. And I really just wanted to do something fun for me. And I love science fiction, so I got the opportunity to adapt the play, which very hard to do, an adaptation. I had it in my head like, I've got a lifting point of a whole play to go off of. Let's just see how that goes. And it's not as easy as, I think in your head, even in my head, I was like, it's going to be like copy and paste, fill in the blanks, expand on it, put it in my words. It's not that at all. You're ground up writing something from scratch because, a play from 2007 will not translate into being a film in 2020. Was it 2023? Yeah. So, having to work the language so it's more cinematic and not theatrical. And it took just a very hard month of writing to be able to get the screenplay out for that.
Wow.
Then we kicked off in December.
Same crew or?
A lot of the same crew. A lot of the key players coming in. So, of course, Keith shot it and so on. And
how many days did you do this one?
This one was 11.
Wow, how did you achieve it like that? Was it less work?
So I learned a big lesson on I'm Not a Hero, which was just because I think something is small scale doesn't mean it actually is. So I'm Not a Hero, I thought it's going to take place in a grocery store, an apartment, little couple of exteriors to kind of break that up. You know, that'll be fine. But that then entails you needing to get an apartment. You got to get a grocery store. And I can tell you right now, getting a grocery store, not easy. Not easy. And so you end up making a lot of compromises, and you realize that you know, your reach far exceeds your grasp in a lot of cases with this kind of filmmaking. So with Lost in Time, I knew we had about double the budget of I Am Not a Hero. But I wanted to keep it extra small, just so that budget had room to breathe, and like so we could just put it up all on screen. So similarly, we kept it down to 2 locations, 3 if you count just a day of exteriors.
Okay.
But otherwise, we kept it largely to kind of a room that we shot in the Diefenbunker down in Debert, and then another 5 solid days of shooting in a house.
Did you guys stay there or had to go there every day?
So we were staying in the area, just a combination of like Airbnbs and hotel rooms, stuff like that. They do have a hospitality center right across the street from the bunker, but it was booked up, unfortunately. So you know, we didn't have just like the life of luxury convenience. But
just traveling from there today. So now I'm Not a Hero. Lost in Time is done or still editing?
It's just in the shot. I've been taking a bit of a time off before I get into the editing of the film, just for my own
Is it also
sanity.
When is this supposed to be ready?
There's no real deadline. So I'm just kind of like sitting on it. So I'm giving it the love that I couldn't give to Hero, where if I could have taken 3 or 4 weeks to just let that footage sit and not dive right into it, I think the film could be different, and I want to be able to give that opportunity to this one, because I'm Not a Hero is a movie I watch now and I go, man, if I had a longer post period, there's about 5 minutes of that movie that I think I would cut out, just tighten it up, that kind of thing. I wouldn't do it now. I don't really believe in going in and changing the work after the fact, because it's done, it's out in the world, it's doing its thing. I'm happy with it. Just, you're your own worst critic, so you're going to sit back and I do this differently.
Yeah.
But I want to give that time for the footage from Lost in Time to breathe a little bit. I should be starting editing probably within the next week. And nice. I'd like to see it out, ready to go before the end of the year. But I'd say it's like likely to hit for a 2024 festival run.
Okay. At least, letting that breathe. So, I mean, it's always great talking to you, but before I let you go, I have to ask this, right? You've made these films, learned so much along the way. You're talking to one of those kids back in the film camp and stuff, and they're like, I want to be the next Henry Colin.
I bet. Yeah.
What will you tell that kid?
Well, just, keep doing it. Keep trying. Biggest lesson I've learned, and the biggest thing I've tried to push on other people, kids, other adults who are making film that are either experienced or not experienced at it, is just keep doing it. It doesn't matter if it comes out bad or unwatchable. It's fine. You can keep that for yourself. But you will learn more from just going out and shooting a short film on your cell phone and trying things out, and just keep at it. You'll learn more from that than any school or book or essay online or YouTube video will ever teach you. Because it'll just give you the tools to troubleshoot. And if you're working with a team, you get to start early and build that camaraderie and get that team together, because if you know and have a good relationship with the people that you work with, you're going to have a better time making things, and you're going to make better movies.
Wow. Henry, it's always great to talk to you. I can't wait for whenever Lost in Time is ready. But super grateful to have you, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.